are listening to the Community Wealth Builders All Access podcast. The production team are Angel Moore and Georgia Sutherland. I'm Eve Robinson, and welcome to the show. Welcome to the Community Wealth Builders All Access podcast, and today I'm very lucky that we've got this person, she's always very busy. I've got Jenny Candler, and I always get her name wrong. And how could you forget this beautiful face? You couldn't, but it's not her face, it's her name I'm having trouble with. Right, so today, got you here today to talk about what you do.
Yeah.
Now, your company's called Employment Support.
It is, yeah.
Right, okay. And tell me a little bit about, not the business yet, how you got there.
Oh, wow. How did I get there? How far back do you want me to go?
Just tell me your story, that's what I
want.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've always been in support from an early age, from before, at school I was supporting someone with Down syndrome at a farm. And then I joined the army as an army nurse. So care and support has always been a big passion of mine, always wanting to help people. When I was in the army, I fell pregnant and I left on family grounds. I'm getting nervous. I left on family grounds and I had my son. And I became an army wife and travelled a little bit. And I ended up nannying in Germany for some beautiful children and families. And during that time, I noticed something wasn't quite, I wouldn't say right or wrong, there's no right or wrong, but something was different with my son.
The path was different for your son?
Yeah, his development path was totally different, social as well. And when I got back to the UK, we got posted back to the UK, and one of my friends said to me, "Have you heard of autism?" I said, "Oh, no." So I started researching autism and went to the doctors, and my son was diagnosed with autism. At that time, I was back nursing in the NHS, doing student nursing in the NHS. And I ended up just really fascinated about how my son thinks, how he socialises, and as a mum, you just, they're a priority.
Yes, yeah, of course.
So I ended up travelling with Adrian. He was non-verbal at the time, or very, very, selective mutism at age 4. So we went travelling, and during these travels, it was an amazing experience because he was able to then start to communicate because he wasn't able to understand the language. So he had to give eye contact to understand.
Yeah.
So that was really, really interesting. And also, during this time, he was drawing. And I just took paper when I went travelling with him, pen and paper, to understand. And he was communicating through his art, and he was drawing ships at the time. And they were really good. They were amazing, actually. The detail. And I was able to hone in on that with communication. So, cut a long story short, his development really started through art and through travel, body language and eye contact. And when I got back to the UK, we moved back to Doncaster, back to my parents, and I ended up working he got re-diagnosed because sometimes people don't communicate.
Yes, yeah. It's not been an easy path. If you've encountered it's not anybody's fault.
No,
it's just that
it's communication.
Sometimes they're learning on the hoof as well.
And it's quite new at the time as well.
Yeah.
So me and my son got re-diagnosed when we moved to Doncaster, and I ended up working for an autism charity to learn more about autism. And that was fascinating, really fascinating to see how people's minds work, and everyone's got skills, haven't they? And it's just honing in on them.
Yeah.
I got a little bit frustrated at the charity, not their fault, but I just wanted to see people's skills develop a lot more. And lucky for me, there's an opportunity came up in an employment side of that business.
Do you think that perhaps because you were at the coalface, that you could see that development could go further because you were right there, because you'd got it with you had it every day with your son?
Yeah, I could see. I just wanted to see, with his artwork, for example. I could see that there was, more capabilities than what people sometimes perceive, and it's no one's fault. It's just how it is, sometimes, isn't it?
Because it is a sort of like a rolling ball, isn't it? Because my grandson has got Down syndrome, and until you encounter it in your own life, I mean, I had a friend who he's 53 now. He's got Down syndrome, so I am quite familiar. But it's not the same as it is now, because the expectation is far greater, because we know it can happen. We know we can do it. But you know, when
models and film stars.
When Andrew was growing up, all they talked about was he probably wouldn't live very long.
It's probably couldn't.
You know, and he can't do this and he can't do that.
Work. My son, you know, might never talk, or might not have a girlfriend, and that was the biggest fear I had. And so I went into employment, and I worked on most, probably near enough all the government contracts I could get my hands on to support people into employment. And I was so frustrated, and then I did have a bit of a breakdown, you know, a few times, to be honest, purely because it was all numbers, and and that's no one's fault again, it's just how the system used to work. People learn, don't they? So, and now, unfortunately, the company that I worked for, I've got great friends still, it went into liquidation. And one day, tottering around Sheffield, I got a tap on my shoulder as an old client, and she says, "Can you help me?" And I says, "What do you need help with?" She says, "I'm struggling going back into work." I says, "Yeah, okay." And that was the start of employment support, and that was 11 years ago now. So I set it all up, you know, policy procedure, everything you need to do for business, and I knew what I was doing anyway. I knew what I was doing, and I helped her, and she's still in work now, and it went from there. It went from also I did I did all my training, job coaching. I was one of the first in the UK to do internships and job coaching training, and so
what does that entail?
It's this development, but it's breaking tasks down a lot of the time, looking at task analysis, looking at and I've developed my own assessments as well around support needs, which, you know, I've got big plans for them as well. So finding out, really getting to know someone, where the difficulties are is where you need to start, and that's what I did. And when you're attached to someone you're trying to support, it can be so overwhelming. You don't know, you can't see the wood for the trees. So if you've got somebody else who's not so emotional attached, who's highlighting the difficulties and working in a strategic way, one step at a time, it works. And we've found that works, you know, and it's, you know, not focusing on those negatives. It's hard to, you know, it's identifying them. But then, okay, one step at a time, and seeing the development that way. So that's how it works.
So if somebody comes along to you and you've identified that they need you, what would happen then?
I'd offer initial assessment first of all, and I'd also, if they're wanting mentoring, because we also offer mentoring services, I would direct them to the council for the social workers to do an assessment as well. And I've been working with them for a few years. So that's a pathway if they want to mentoring, and that kind of leads on to looking at the support needs socially and employment, and it gives us a chance to really know where they want to go in life. And after that, it's a case of networking, finding really supportive employers, and my God, there is some really good ones at Doncaster.
That's nice to know. That is nice to know.
There is.
But Doncaster does have a really good network of volunteers and people that we have a big caring community, don't we? We really do.
I think another thing is access to work have been fundamental in the development of everything, because it's person-centred. Their support needs, the funding comes from a person-centred point of view, and it's the client it's their funding, so they use it, you know, with support, and we help put that support in place how they want it and how the employer needs it. So it's looking at both sides of the coin.
And are most of the people that come to you, what are their problems? You know, is it autism? Is it ADHD?
Do you know what?
Or is it a mixture?
It's complete mix, and it's not just autism, Asperger's, neurodiverse conditions that I've been supporting. I've been supporting other things as well, like people who've had a stroke, and helping them with processing information and moving forward, and helping. So it's a complete span of disabilities that we support now.
It's good. And so, like I say, right, I've come to you and I need help, and you've given me an assessment. What would happen then?
I would refer to the council. Say, look, we've got this person, they're wanting either mentoring or support. There is a gap in funding at the moment that we're going to look into, and that is from the point of view of helping someone find the work. Access to work help with funding in work, but there's just that help in finding work. That's where the mentoring and working with the council is crucial.
Yeah.
So
And
that's
so
where
the Doncaster Council offer this service?
They do, yeah. I'm having a meeting with them soon, actually, in relation to it, because things will be changing and developing again, I think. So, yeah, they offer, social workers, so they'll help with assessments and they'll help with funding. I think the biggest barriers before, when I started over, 10, 11 years ago, was that clients and customers, or whatever you want to call it, who want some support, they didn't have to pay, but now there's a contribution cost.
Yeah.
So that's one of the barriers to be aware of. The council do financial assessments around that.
They do try and help you over that.
Yeah. But other than that, that's the pathway.
So so I've come to you and I've been to the council have mentored me and everything. So are you involved again, or is that?
Yeah, that's when we do the one-to-one mentoring.
Right. Yeah.
So staff, we've got mentor training, and they work on an assessment. From the assessment of what they need. Life skills is huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Because it's sometimes we find that it's not just the client that's got a difficulty. Parents sometimes have a difficulty too. So it's working holistically with the families of what family support is, as opposed to just that individual. So we do open up to the family support on that avenue, and help build independent skills. Look at food, health and well-being. Today, I was a great employer this morning, and I was helping in the kitchen with a client, and then I went for a bike ride with another client, and that was part of the client bike ride was helping him. I've helped him get a job.
Yeah.
But it's cycling to and from work now.
Right.
So it's just building around the.
So you're dealing with kind of sometimes the minutiae of things that make life easy for everybody. So like you're saying, if they can get to work, then they can go to work.
Yeah.
But sometimes
travel training is one of those things. Getting on the bus and they can feel comfortable and confident and know what to do in an emergency and when things change or what So it's.
Because very often, if somebody's got some kind of difficulties, like you were saying with the parents, they sometimes actually shield them as well. It's not just a matter of that they don't know. It's kind of like, well, they won't do that. Well, probably will.
Yeah, it's not just that. I don't think. I think a lot of parents shield because they're scared of bullying.
Yes. Yeah.
If I'm honest, and people do get defensive naturally because of that. And sometimes, that's a real barrier of letting go. They don't want any harm to be done to the child, and no one does want harm to the child.
No.
But
you do, especially if you've really had to be sort of the helicopter parent all the time. It must be very difficult to let go of that.
Yeah, it's scary, isn't it? Who do you trust in this world? And I'm not perfect, and but. I try. I try to help as best I can around those situations.
So, going back to sort of your situation, you find that's really helped you, that you are able to, on the same level with somebody else, say, well, I am aware of what's going on. I do know what it feels like. Does that help?
It's relatability, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's why people generally, they like that. It's experienced by expert by experience to say, but I don't. No one's an expert's a wild term, isn't it? But experience from the heart, I think.
Yes.
Is a big key.
Yeah, because it's a bit like when very often people say, "Oh, why would I go to AA because they're just a load of other alcoholics?" It's like that one person you sit next to might tell you something that makes your sobriety for one more day, and that's what you need. And it's the same with any kind of thing. If you see somebody that's experienced it does help you.
Yeah, I think so. It's relatability, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's going back to like, know, and trust, isn't it?
Yes.
You like someone, you know them, and you trust them. And trust is a hard thing for some of the parents. And
do you find that your client? Well, you said one of your clients came and tapped you on your shoulder, and that's how it started. Do your clients come back to you if they?
Sometimes they're like, come on, you can do it on your own now.
Well, I can imagine that because you're very nurturing. So you'd always think, well, I know she can.
You can do it on your own now. You really can do it on your own now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's that one.
Yeah. And do you see yourself doing this, into the future? Yeah?
Indefinitely. I don't think it's something so close to my heart. I think I'll always. It's not a job; it's a vocation, isn't it? Like when you're passionate about something and you really want to help improve quality of lives, you just.
And what age group? I mean, do you go into schools and talk about this, or is it?
We have done in the past. But generally, it's been word of mouth. I've kind of kept myself under a bit. Yeah. So I don't want to take on too much and not have the structure.
Resource. Yeah.
So that's.
So sort of what age group are we talking about? Would come to you? Or is it
16 plus?
Yeah. Because one of the things is, obviously I tend to talk about what happens with me as well. But I've got 3 grandchildren, and like I say, Jacob's got Down, but the other 2 have other problems, neurodivergence, and that kind of thing. And to me, straight away, I'm thinking, get you in a school to make people understand, because for 2-3 years, nobody understood what one of these children particularly was going through.
I can relate.
And he's now gone to a different school where they treat him differently and they understand his difference. They understand he thinks differently. He doesn't view things in the same way. We had a
that's such an asset in a lot of ways, isn't
it? Well,
yeah.
But we had a guy called Glyn Butcher came. We did it.
Glyn.
And he was talking about how he sees things differently, and he hears things differently. He sees when people are talking, he sees like a music, and it's like just knowing that. And in actual fact, just knowing that sometimes since meeting him, I think about that and I think, how wonderful to think that way. That you can hear the song, and so to know that people think differently is a really important thing, which again puts you back in that. Well, I do know because I've lived through it, but to me, I'm straight away thinking, get in schools, get people to really know, But I'm not going to try and give you any more to do because what you're doing is wonderful anyway. You're doing a brilliant job. Because I know just from my friend Andrew that he never had a job. He had little tasks and things, but he never really had a job, and it's because perception of what he could do and the way things were has changed so much now that he could do now, but of course, he doesn't want to know. He's too old. He's not really, But to me, when I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, what hope there is if you're doing this. I think it's a really important thing. And I'm just wondering what you're saying about expansion and. Tell me more.
Really? I don't want to give my secrets away.
No. Yeah. But you do see that there's the need isn't going away.
No, absolutely not. It's growing. There's more people being diagnosed nowadays than there were back when my son was diagnosed.
Yeah.
So it's people are being more aware of people being different.
Yeah. I think there's so many different things. It's kind of, like you say, that it can be mental health. It can be all kinds of different things that previously we just sort of you went to work or you didn't go to work, and there didn't seem to be anything to see you back into work. Like you say, when somebody's had a stroke, I always think of that marvelous film Daniel Blake, and he had a heart attack, and because he didn't know the system. He got, I think it's called I'm trying to remember it now, but sanctioned. Mm. So then he lost his benefits, and the man had a heart attack. I mean, obviously it was only a film, but it was a particularly powerful film because it showed that thing of if you're not shown a way back in, then not all of us, unless we're extremely wealthy, are only 2 paychecks away from being
100%.
Being on benefits and things. Yeah. So it's a really important thing that there's something that can happen that can step you back into.
Yeah, definitely.
And so, like you said, if somebody had a stroke, how would they get in touch with you? What would they do?
There's my website at the moment. How do people?
It's just word of mouth.
It's just word of mouth right now, if you don't mind. Yeah. Only because I don't want to let people down. And if I had people phoning me up.
Yeah. I can't take on
the world at the moment. Well, you never know. But it's just, I cherish the clients that I'm supporting and
Yeah.
staff I've got now,
Yeah.
and I don't want to put any overload on anyone.
No.
It's going really nicely now, and we will develop. And when I do, then I'll say okay. But at the moment, I'm really happy with just word of mouth, because then it's
But like I say, so we've got somebody with a stroke. They've come to see you. You've said that if somebody with a stroke wouldn't necessarily have a social worker or anything like that. So what would be the next step for them?
Well, in this case, it was I actually found a lady on. I literally picked her up.
Oh gosh, right.
Not after a stroke, may I add, but
yeah.
it could see something was seriously wrong.
Yeah.
And it was a case of working with Access to Work to get the support she needs, and she's got today.
Yeah. I mean, when I think about it, it's amazing that there aren't more people doing what you're doing, because it's like you say, there's a gap that really needs to be plugged, And you say you send people for assessments, well, by the council. So if you've got a
we do the assessment.
Oh, you do the assessment.
They do as well, but
Yeah.
they do the finance and then they do the support. But
Right,
we do our own assessments as well for the work, the employment.
And so if somebody came to you and they had no idea about whether they were on benefits and everything, would you know where to push them, Can you help them in that way? No,
not generally.
It's all to do with
the kind of people I would sign.
But just because of your knowledge, you probably would be able to help them. But mostly,
if mentoring, then
you're more
mentoring, then we do support around.
And you say that there's some really helpful businesses in Doncaster. So what do they do? What do they offer?
They are so empathic and so passionate about helping people achieve what they can in the workplace. That's what they offer. They offer a really understanding environment.
Yeah.
I think that's key, and working alongside ourselves, it takes the pressure off them as well. Because we have parents who have difficulties. Instead of going to the employer, they can come to us. And we pop in and see how they're getting on, if they need anything else. So it's a nice support.
Like a network that goes look around that person. That when they go in, because it must be very nerve-wracking.
Well, for employers as well, they're thinking, am I going to get it wrong? If I don't do it right, how is that going to affect ourselves and the person we're employing? So it's a case of breaking things down from the assessment, looking at what their needs are, looking at what their clients' needs are, and marrying it together so everyone's happy, and as happy as can be, and safe, obviously. So
Well, that's I although it's been really quite short for us, but really we've covered it because you've said there was a gap and you filled it, and that's marvellous. Is there anything else you want to sort of amplify to say about your business?
Yeah, I think mental health goes hand in hand with support and what I do, and I think a lot of people with disabilities are affected more so with mental health, and I've worked around mental health before, and everyone's so unique, and it's hard to say, what's going to help mental health, and it is, because not one size fits all. So my partner, and I'm supporting him with this, is going to be launching a mental health support day in Doncaster in May. So watch this space, because I think it's really important that we can all come together and see what resources we've got in Doncaster, and not be ashamed of going, that'll help, because one size doesn't fit all.
No.
And saying, what's going to help me with my mental health? I don't know. You've got to look. Let's see. We've got to try. There's different things that work for different people. So supporting my partner with this event is going to be, something I'm really passionate about.
And have you found a venue for this yet?
We're looking.
Yeah,
we are. We've got some really good ideas at the moment. So I spoke to someone yesterday who said he'll get back to me.
There's some lovely new venues just opening up, isn't there?
Public exchange would be a nice one.
I was just going to say that.
But that's our number one at the moment. So
because it's a wonderful venue, and
the airport as well. That's another venue. But the problem with the airport is getting
people. There's footfall for that. Is
corn exchange. Market. Something like that. Pulling everyone into the centre to feel safe and look at what's around. That sounds like a marvellous idea. It really does. And I do hope that gets taken up. We've had some good feedback so far of people wanting to get involved. Because that's the thing. Very often, there's lots of different
areas that volunteer and, you know, helps, and organisations like yourself and everything. But if you don't know who they are, but to be able to have a publicised event and go along and, you know, and once you've done that, then you can do it again, and people will think, oh yeah, I remember that now. Or better than that, just having been there, you think, I remember that when that person might need that. I mean, you know, for instance, if we're all talking, if you hear something, you think, oh, that'll be good for them, you know. So yeah, wonderful. Right, so I think we're going to round up now, but really thank you very much for coming on to talk to us. It's lovely to see you again. And I mean, I know you from old, not from old, because you're not old and I am, but I've known you for a long time, and it's always a pleasure to see you. It really is. So thank you very much.
You.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Community Wealth Builders All Access podcast. Today's guest details can be found in the bio.